Hi lovelies, and welcome back to another TikTok video. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos you will be the first person to be notified. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for all the love and support. To those people that share my videos, leave commentaries. You guys are the real MVP. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Alright lovelies, let's get into the video. I came across this video on my For You page on TikTok and I find it super interesting, and I decided to share it here so as to get other opinions where this white man is actually asking these questions about slavery and how or what's your family or what your parents taught you about slavery. And I was able to put up some stitches, guys. I'm just gonna roll the clip as well as the stitches I was able to put together. So leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video, and do not forget that this channel does not support any form of violence. We are just here for educational and informative purposes, guys. All right lovelies, let's get into it.
So I just finished watching this video of this woman making food for Thanksgiving, and she was talking about the history of Black Americans and Thanksgiving. And she was talking about how Thanksgiving was one of the first holidays that people who were enslaved were allowed to celebrate. And like many Americans, specifically white Americans who learned about slavery, I'm realizing that my education around the entire topic in history is so skewed and flawed. And the amount of things that I've learned just by following Black creators on TikTok is more than I've ever learned in school. So then I started thinking about the conversations that I had with my parents about slavery when I started learning about it in school. And then it got me thinking, how do Black parents have the conversation about slavery with their children? Is it a conversation that's like you sit down and you lay everything out? Is it like something that you slowly reveal more information about because it's obviously a very traumatic topic? Or for anybody out there, was it something that your parents even talked to you about? Or was it something that was like, learned it in school? This is a 100% genuine question, and I just want to learn the differences of how Black families teach about slavery versus white families.
Because it shows how both diverse and yet unifying the experience of being Black in America is. The first times I learned about race and racism, and by that extension slavery, was from my grandmother. She lived with us. She was my maternal grandmother. My dad was always working. My mom had 3 children under the age of 4. So it was my sister who was 4, my brother was 2, and I was an infant. And so my grandma moved in to help us. She's a second mom to me and I love her. We call her Mima. When she was cooking or playing with us, she would talk about her childhood growing up in Delray Beach, Florida. She would talk about how this line, the central line in the town, would be the racial divider, that Black people were on one side and white people were on the others. This was as early as I could understand English, and honestly probably even before that, because she would just be around us and talk to us about her lived experience. She would talk about the segregated water fountains, the segregated movie theaters, the segregated schools. And when I was a bit older, like 4 or 5, I would ask her why this happened. She would talk about how this country enslaved Black people, that we fought a civil war, and when we couldn't justify enslaving them, we found different ways to subjugate them, one of which being Jim Crow segregation. She would talk about marching, she would talk about protesting, she would talk about striking. This is in addition to my own lived experience. I was born in New York and then grew up in Connecticut, and I saw how I was perceived differently. I watched how my family, how my siblings were racialized and treated differently just because we were Black. People asked me in my suburban schools if I was bussed in from the inner city. Someone even called me the N-word in the 4th grade. So I would come home from school and ask about all these questions, and my parents would have to tell me. Mind you, I was tall, so around 5th and 6th grade, we had the talk that you're a big Black boy and you will be aged up and racialized by police and other authorities. We'd have to do genealogy projects in school, and people would be like, what country are you from? And I'm like, I don't know. I ended up having to do a lot more work to figure out my own family tree than anyone else. Why was I doing genealogical research in 5th grade? Why was I scouring public records, my grandmother's letters and diaries to construct my family tree? Because enslavement and the Jim Crow South destroyed my family connection. I even wrote an article about this. There is no uniform answer to when or how families talk about enslavement and race and racism. But some common threads seem to be that you talk about race first because of the lived experience of your elders in your family, and then also applying that to what you're seeing in your own daily life, and then the questions that come back. I could talk about this for literally years, but this is just a brief overview. Hope that helps.
I didn't really get the information about slavery from my parents. I got it from my grandparents. My parents really didn't have the conversation with me. I mostly had that talk with my grandparents. I was blessed in the fact that I not only got to meet my great-grandmother, but my great-great-grandmother. My great-great-grandmother, her stories were mostly passed down through my grandfather. So if I had a question about slavery that I was learning in school, I could just go to him and he would give me all the details. Not the graphic details because he would clean it up because I was a child, but he's got his point across. One of the stories I do remember is him telling me about them splitting up families. It's one of the reasons why my family is super close-knit and we don't really go a day without talking to one another. My great-grandmother, her family were sharecroppers as well. So she would tell me stories about the exploitation of her family post-slavery. I remember she told me a story about her being a little girl and some white man assaulted her mother, and her father defended her mom and they had to move in the middle of the night. I remember her telling me how scared she was, and that's always stuck with me. This is why I think it's really important to actually talk to your grandparents and get their story while they still can give it to you.
So lovelies, when I actually came across this video, I found the topic very interesting. You know, this is the kind of topic that is not often taught in school, and I'm so impressed that this kind of topic is being brought out and, you know, deliberated. And I have learned so many things from, you know, these people's experience and all of that. And so the way at which, you know, history is being taken off from schools and all of that, and there are so many things we are all to learn from what happened in the past and from our ancestors, and there's so many of them that we are also ought to teach our children, our little ones, because if we don't do that, who else? No one is going to do that for us. So when I saw this video, I was like, okay, this is very educational, and this white man actually acts, he just want to know as well, just the way he want to know, I also want to know. So guys, you could just share your experience at the comment section of what you think of this video, coming from the perspective of Black Americans or Black people. If you know, or maybe your parent taught you something about slavery and how it all started, you can just share it in the comment section. And do not forget that this channel does not support any form of violence or bullying whatsoever. We are just here for educational and informative purposes, guys. So lovelies, if you've heard anything or been educated on anything, you can just share it in the comment section, because most of the time I read all of this on internet, Google, or sometimes the ones I see on TikTok, how our forefathers were brought from far away from Africa and brought to the States, the Western countries. They were stripped out of so many things. They decided to try to change their cultures. They were forced to speak some kind of language, and they made it the African vernacular English, the American vernacular English that we know today. And there are a lot of stories, because white people, on the other hand, also had their own stories, which everybody just have to share their own stories, what their forefathers or fathers have to say about it, about slavery, and how it all became, or how it's all manifested, and how it all came on existent during the time, and the abolishments by the British people abolished it as well. So guys, why not just share us your knowledge? Subscribe to this channel if you've not done that. This white man actually asks a question, he actually asks a harmless question, and which is so educating, and it's something that nobody often speak about. And this coming right now is just something that I'm so impressed about, and I also want to learn, because you cannot learn everything. So guys, share your experience, share what you've learned from your brothers, parents, and all of that in the comment section, so we can all learn, since they have stripped us our history, or strip all the history from schools and all of that, so we can just help ourselves. Thank God for TikTok and all of that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload my next video.